Hi everyone, it's Natalie here at Sanskrit Blue. Welcome to my channel, especially welcome to all the new subscribers. I wanted to come on and talk about some of the plans coming up for the month of February. So just to rewind a little bit, some of you who follow me on Instagram or who were following me on Instagram back at the end of December and into the beginning of January maybe will recall that I was posting every day what my spreads were for Kwanzaa. So thankfully, this last year, so December 2019, I felt welcomed to learn about and understand Kwanzaa and of what Kwanzaa is, what it's about, what it celebrates, and why it's important. And so I do want to start first by saying a deep, wholehearted thank you to Queen Osset and to Veronica Rose for both making that information, making the journal and the practice and the spreads available, and for making me feel welcome to explore and to try it, because it's the end of January, although it'll probably it may be the 1st of February when this gets posted, I don't know, but I'm still processing a lot of the depth and the information and everything that came out of that practice, even though it's been almost a month ago that it started. I expect that I will continue to deepen with my understanding of it and the things that I got out of it for months to come now. And I'm already thinking about how do I want to engage Kwanzaa this coming year? How will I, knowing what I know now, how would I like to move forward with it, and with my understanding of it? It was really deep and it was really powerful and very meaningful. So I may be putting up pictures as I'm talking of some of these spreads. In fact, I just remembered that I do not have to hand the deck that I used, and I may want to have that to hand as I'm chatting. So hang on one sec. So the deck that I was using was the Orisha Tarot. So this is its guidebook, and I marked the pages, day 1 of Kwanzaa, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. According to the actual traditional, the gold ones are other things that I've marked, but according to the traditional colors of each of the days of Kwanzaa, so that I could go back to reread, the information about the deck. I have to say it was an incredible way to get to know a deck over that month. I did want to use a deck that had a sense of inclusivity to it, and even though the so many things to say, I'm getting so excited. But even though this tarot is based in an African religious tradition, it was created by a white practitioner of within that tradition, and it is an incredibly diverse deck as a result. And it's the artwork. I just love the artwork of this deck. I love the feel of this deck. It's absolutely glorious. The stories, the patakis involved in each of the cards are incredibly moving. And I could get really absorbed in the deck. I do have a video coming up that will be released, in the not too distant future of look at this one. Of this deck. Anyway, it's a beautiful deck. It's a very, very deep deck that is incredibly well done. Incredibly well done. So I chose this one because it is inclusive, it is diverse, it is rooted in African religious tradition, specifically in an Orisha-based tradition. And I just, it's an African religion or rather an African practice, Kwanzaa. So I really wanted to get to know as much as I could and immerse to some degree in the background and culture, because I'm a guest, and I really felt very much like a very welcomed and an invited guest. But as such, I also wanted to approach being a guest with tremendous respect. And that was a very important part to me of the entire practice. It was amazing. If you have never done it, if you have never investigated Kwanzaa before, I really invite you to do so. It's beautiful. So I did, I won't show you the journaling pages. I have I do like this disc binding system that I've come across, but I made, we're going the wrong way. Here we go. I was going the right way at first, but I did put together pages. So I have, a picture of the spread and then the actual information about, about the spread, and then I would write about it and journal about it on the following pages afterwards. So the second day, first day was unity, or umoja. And I love the way that the spread's educated, right? So, overall beliefs and attitudes to unity, how I can improve unity in family and with loved ones, in a social network, professional life, community, nation, and race. Something that specifically I appreciated about number 7 as well was the way that, if you watched any of Queen Osset's videos about this, she was really specific to talk about race in terms of inclusivity of all of the human race. If you look at us and we look at our DNA and we trace it back further than the 500 years that's covered by 23andMe and all of those other ones, all of them bypass any of the kind of activity and intermingling that happened on the Eurasian steppe about 1,000 years before that, or longer. But suffice it to say, go far enough back, we all came from Africa, right? So what we see here is a matter of epigenetics. It's epigenetics are what happens when you take a living being and you change its environment. It will begin to express genetic factors differently in a way that doesn't necessarily change the genetic makeup in order to make that particular living being more adaptable to its environment. So as a human being that originated in the mother continent of Africa, my family's background, for whatever reason, came from way far north of there, where the icebergs never quit happening and where it would have been genetically more productive somehow to change the features, to have lighter skin, with less contact with the sun, et cetera, et cetera. This is the way that epigenetics functions. I hope that makes sense. So really, when you think about it, race as we have come to know it as human beings is much more of a cultural concept or a social concept, a tribalistic concept, than it is a reality. So that was something that I, have come to deeply appreciate in many facets over the years, but to openly hear Queen Osset articulate it in a very similar way really made me feel very welcome to look at this and to look at it publicly instead of doing it quietly behind closed doors where I would risk offending, if that makes sense. I have a big, long history of worrying about that comes from something completely that's very specific, which I may go into a little bit more as the month progresses in February. So, yeah. So that was Umoja. So concept of unity and the way that we look at unity and the way we express it, the way we embody it, it's amazing. Again, I continue to look at and and contemplate this as the month goes on. The day 2 is the concept of kujichagulia, which is self-determination. Something I appreciated too, or really came to appreciate in, through the practice of Kwanzaa is that even though, we may be looking at the individual in several of these spreads, right? Looking at ourselves, the lens is never absent of the whole or the collective. So, which is something that I think in American culture, and certainly I would say too, maybe in white European culture, is something that we've become, engendered to believe is the ultimate, right? Is, self-determination and individualism. And I've kind of long since gotten to the point of thinking, I love my own individuality, but I don't exist in a vacuum. I exist because other people exist. I exist because I live within a world where we're all deeply interconnected. So this, this concept, as beautiful as it is, still includes, includes the community. It includes others. That's still, what's the most prominent history that I carry within me? The traditional foundations that inform my life, how I primarily define myself, my inner authentic name, how I create for myself, how I speak for myself, and my highest inspiration. Again, as you draw these concepts together, what I do is important not because it makes me happy, but because it has an impact on others, right? Something I really loved about this. Day 3, Ojama, collective work and responsibility. Again, back to the collective, right? So, how I help to build my community, how I contribute to the collective effort, how I help others with problem solving, how I nurture and teach younger people, how others perceive my community efforts, how others perceive my level of responsibility, and finally, an area for personal growth, or an area of personal growth in my community efforts. Wow. I mean, I could go through all of these. Suffice it to say, oh, well, what the hell? So day 4, Ojama, cooperative economics. And that's in part something I really want to talk about today, because this is something I had not given. I've given a lot of thought to these things over time, over the years. This brought a new level of depth to it, and a new level of specificity of it to this community. So something that I really, as someone who wants deeply to embrace, it brought up a lot of different stuff. Let's look at it, eh? Let's look at all this stuff it brought up. So I'm somebody who really, really wants to embrace diversity, create safe space where diversity is not only possible, but also welcomed and embraced and normalized, completely normalized, that we treat one another with respect, because respect is something that helps other people show other people that we love them and care about them. It's less to do with worrying about politics or political sensitivities, and it's more to do with love, right? And because love and respect and trust are things that they're just irreplaceable, and they're the most beautiful aspect of being, interbeing with one another, is that, because where trust, respect, and love connect and come together, there can be understanding. There can be the exchange of ideas, learning. It's amazing. Growth, real growth, deep growth. So, yes, that's exciting to me. Another thing that's very exciting to me, which also then raises all these other things, okay, is the idea of ancestors and the importance of the link that we have with our ancestors, how that works for us, how we function within it, and what it means. And, there's a big chunk of my personal family history that I will go into this month, not in this video, but in another one, that we found out because my parents decided they were going to go ahead and do 23andMe, which is not a bad idea. Well, it depends on who you talk to, but suffice it to say, they chose to do it. We found out that a chunk of our history, of our family background that we thought was there for years does not exist. It is not there. And we simultaneously found out that another whole facet of it that we didn't realize was there is. And I guess it shouldn't surprise me, but it kind of did. I always thought that the whitest part of our family came from Ireland and Britain. It doesn't just come from Ireland and Britain, it also comes from Scandinavia. And it doesn't look like it was even specific about what part of Scandinavia. So I guess that could be anywhere in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and Estonia, and Denmark, anywhere that's in that in that area in the Baltic Sea. So we were, although I think it was at some points it was specific to like Norway and Sweden and Finland, but I don't know. It's been a while since I've read all the information and looked at it. I just remembered we were shocked. We didn't really know that there was that much there. And we didn't realize how much there was. And most of it comes on my dad's side of the family, most of whom are from Minnesota and transplanted down to Missouri back in, at least on my dad's mother's side, back in the 1920s or 30s. So, yeah. So that was a big shock. I guess, I don't know why. It's just not the history that we were brought up to believe was ours. Just wasn't. So, something, the value that I really took away from the practice of Kwanzaa was, how can I be with that and make space for that, which means further embracing whiteness, right? In a way that in all honesty, I'm not entirely comfortable with. It's something that bothers me because I don't, it's so much a part of the dominant culture. It's so much a part of what I see every day, that I don't want to be, I don't want to normalize that completely, because it's not reality. It's not the reality that I'm actually happiest in. Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to put it. So, how can I find a way to connect with that while also connecting with more diversity? Well, again, it's not a matter of doing one thing or another. It's a matter of yes and, right? Because in other ways, again, that I'm going to untangle and untease throughout the month of February, because it is Black History Month, I'm curious about exploring and being completely authentic about the ways in which my personal background will potentially be healed through recognizing my role in our collective history as a country, right? As United States of America, through being fully authentic about my experience, about who I am and what my role is within that, as well as what my ancestral role has been within that. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is coming back to this idea of Ojama, which is the collective, or the cooperative economics. So something I've decided to do this year is to really focus on mindfully spending money, when I do spend it, on things like, within this particular community, but of course within the greater world as well. But when I'm buying decks, when I'm buying books, when I'm buying readings, etc., to do that within our community in a way that really acknowledges its full diversity at the same time. I would really like to support other artists and bring their value and their work and their beauty to, to a place where we can all really appreciate it. So that's a big part of it for me as well. What else do we have? Let's see. Yeah, those are the major parts of it that I wanted to look at today. That's the big stuff. So yeah, so coming up in February, that's really where the focus will be. So, setting intention in terms of looking at and sharing my own experience of diversity, and of how that's played out, and finding ways to be supportive of other artists and other creators, other readers within our community, of all backgrounds, because of wanting so much, for that sense of unity and respect and love and trust to be built, and to hold space for that. The only way we're going to change the world that we live in is to change the way that we live in the world. So how can we do that? Well, we can do that by embracing, by accepting, by recognizing, what is it that's here? What's affecting us? What has an impact on us? And what can we, without taking things so personally, how can we then manage our own reactions to things and then move forward in a way that's healthy, in a way that continues that growth and continues the space for healing? So welcome to February, everybody. Thank you so much again, to Queen Osset from Oya's Girl, and to Veronica Rose for the beautiful work that you did for Kwanzaa, which, as I said, is having such a huge impact on me and on the way I'm seeing things this year, and on the way I'm wanting to move forward. So yeah. All right, everybody. With that, I wish you the most beautiful February. May it be filled with tremendous love. All right, more soon. Bye.